In this Circuits of the Past video, you'll see Hermann's top 10 of abandoned racetracks across Europe. All of these circuits were visited by Hermann himself. The Motodrom Gelsenkirchen was a 0.466 mile long short club circuit in the west of Germany. It opened in 1969 as a gravel circuit, but graduated to an asphalt circuit in 1977. The track itself was used for amateur stock car racing. Actually, it was kind of like a road circuit in a way, but it had some characteristics of a quarter-mile oval. Just like the oval, it was driven in anti-clockwise with two parallel straights, but the straights themselves of the Motodrom Gelsenkirchen were longer with several left and right kinks. The official name of the track was Motodrom Gelsenkirchen, but the locals often called it the Almaring. Alma was the name of a cooking plant on the site, and Ring is German for circuit, so it was kind of nicknamed the Alma Circuit. However, in the early 1980s, the Almaring found opposition from environmentalists and local residents who, surprise, surprise, complained about the noise. I'm detecting a theme. That led to the closure of the circuit in 1984. Since then, the track has been left abandoned. But while most of the abandoned circuits here are illegal to enter, this one can be visited legally. The site is now a park, and the overgrown track is now an asphalt park throughout the woods.
We're here at the former Motodrom Gelsenkirchen, also known as the Almaring.
The old Opel Test Track, officially named Opel-Rennbahn, opened in 1920 as a test facility of the Opel factory in Rüsselsheim, Germany. It was an oval track inspired by the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Soon they saw the commercial potential of the track and started to organise races there during the weekends. For these occasions they built 5 grandstands around the circuit, which could accommodate up to 50,000 spectators. Besides motor racing, the large proving ground also was used for markets, exhibitions and performances of Opel's own music chapel. But when in 1927 the Nürburgring opened, and then in 1932 the Hockenheimring opened, the Opel-Rennbahn got tough competition from modern circuits. In the 1930s less races were organised, and when World War II broke out in 1939, motor racing stopped there completely. After the war, the Opel Test Track was used by the American Army to test military vehicles, but in 1949 the track closed and was left abandoned. In 1987, the abandoned circuit got the status of a monument of industry and technologies. Today, a part of the overgrown track is cleared and equipped with an observation platform. The Nivelles circuit opened in 1971 as a safer alternative to Spa-Francorchamps. Nivelles hosted the Formula 1 Belgian Grand Prix twice, in 1972 and 74. Both races were won by Emerson Fittipaldi. But because the circuit was only 2.3 miles long, with huge runoff areas, it wasn't very popular with the drivers. However, there was a very challenging section called the Big Loop. Actually, the track was never really finished. The design foresaw a longer track, but the owners could not bring up enough money to actually buy the land necessary to build it. They decided to build a short version first and then expand it later. That was a huge miscalculation. Once the circuit was there, the landowners wanted more money, so Nivelles was never completed. The circuit came into financial trouble and closed its doors in 1981, but that wasn't the end of its story. After the closure, it was used for illegal racing. In spring of 1998, Hermann visited the abandoned Nivelles circuit for the first time. He was just in time before the demolition started. The fate of Nivelles inspired him in 2003 to start a website about lost circuits. The name? Circuits of the Past. Today, the old Nivelles circuit is a business park. The public road follows parts of the old circuit layout, like the Big Loop. And in the woods, there's still part of an old abandoned track. But it's only a matter of time until that part is also converted into a business park too. The abandoned southern loop of the Nürburgring can be seen as the forgotten part of this iconic track in Germany. When the Nürburgring opened in 1927, the complex included the famous 14.17 mile long northern loop, a 1.4 mile start-finish loop, and then also a 4.8 mile southern loop. While the prestigious northern loop was used for international races like the German Formula 1 Grand Prix, the southern loop was used for national races. The official name of this section is Südschleife, which is actually German for southern loop. After 1975, the Südschleife became disused, and when the Nürburgring lost the German Grand Prix after the terrible crash from Niki Lauda in 1976, plans were made to modernise the entire circuit. The victim of the modernisation, though, was the old Südschleife. To build the new Grand Prix circuit, they demolished the old start-finish loop and the northern part of the Südschleife. What was left of the old Südschleife became public road or an entrance road to the parking, but there is also still a section left abandoned. Brooklands opened in 1907 and was the first ever purpose-built racetrack in the world. It was an initiative from entrepreneur Hugh F. Locke King. As racing on public roads was banned by British law, he wanted to build a permanent racing venue. They built the circuit near the village of Weybridge, southwest of London. Brooklands was combined of a high-banked oval with a road circuit on the infield. There was also a steep hill to test vehicles. Before and after the First World War, Brooklands had a huge boom. Motorsport was only for the rich those days. Not only the drivers themselves, but also the audience consisted only of wealthy people. The right crowd and no crowding was a circuit slogan. World War II would eventually become the downfall of Brooklands. The aircraft manufacturer Vickers was located on the infield. During the Second World War, this factory had to run at full speed and capacity, and so expansion was necessary. Since the circuit was not used during the war, a part of the banking was demolished. Moreover, the circuit was easy to recognise from the air by the German Air Force. To camouflage it, holes were made into the surface, in which trees were then planted. In 1946, the site was then sold to Vickers, which went further with the demolition of parts of the banking. It wasn't until half a century later that Brooklands finally got the status of being a monument, which therefore prevents further demolition. Today, a part of the old Brooklands circuit belongs to the Brooklands Museum. When the Monza circuit opened in 1922, it contained a road circuit and a high-banked oval which could be used together or separately. The length of the combined circuit was exactly 10 kilometres, which is 6.2 miles. During a huge reconstruction of the track that started in 1938, the original banking was demolished. They also built a test track, known as the Pirelli track, and a huge new grandstand with a restaurant. However, in the 1950s, Monza wanted to return to its original concept of a combination of a road circuit and a high-banked oval once again. In 1955, the new Monza layout opened with its new oval, on almost exactly the same site as the original. To give the circuit its exact length of 10 kilometres once again, they introduced the famous Parabolica corner. The full circuit was used 3 times for the Formula 1 Italian Grand Prix, in 1956, 1960 and 1961. The full version with the banking was also used for the 1966 Formula 1 movie Grand Prix. After Formula 1 abandoned the banking, it was also found too dangerous for other series. It was used for the last time in 1969 during the 1,000 kilometres of Monza. Since then, the old oval was left abandoned. When the Monza circuit needed to improve safety in the 90s, they needed to chop down some trees, so they came up with the plan to demolish the disused banking and then use the space to replant trees again, just like they would do with the old 2002 Hockenheim revamp. But after the massive protest, among others by Formula 1 drivers themselves, they decided to cancel the plan. Since 1978 though, the old Monza Oval is used once a year by the Monza Rally, but only the lower part of the banking can be used. The rest of the year it's just simply a memory to the past which can be explored utterly legally. The Reims-Gueux circuit was operational from between the years of 1926 and 1972. It was most famous for holding the French Grand Prix, which it held 12 times between the years of 1950 and 1966. But alongside Formula 1 races, it also hosted the annual 12 Hours of Reims. Originally, the Reims-Gueux circuit ran through the village of Gueux. In 1952, however, a new connection was built to shortcut the passage through Gueux. A year later, this section was extended, which made the Reims-Gueux circuit one of the fastest circuits on the Formula 1 calendar. After the 1953 Grand Prix, they also increased the radius of the Moisson corner and the Fillois corner to make the circuit even faster. After the last French Grand Prix in 1966, the Reims-Gueux circuit was used just for national races and the 12 Hours of Gueux. But the track soon became outdated, and it was closed in June 1972. The day after the last race, they started to demolish the pits. However, shortly after the start of the demolition, a new mayor ordered it to be stopped immediately, but sadly, the first pit boxes had already been demolished. After many years of being abandoned, new plans were made to demolish the rest of the buildings and build new houses on the site instead. Fortunately, the foundation Les Amis de Circuit de Gueux was founded to save the remains of the old Reims-Gueux circuit. They got permission to restore the buildings and guarantee that nothing else would be demolished again. Every time Hermann visits the Reims-Gueux circuit, he can see the improvement in the restoration. The foundation does a good job in preserving this piece of motorsport history. The Leyland Test Track was built in the late 1970s and opened in 1980. The test circuit was mainly used to test trucks and buses from British Leyland, but it was also used for rally stages. The test facility contained a banked oval for high-speed testing, with on the outside a long straight for brake testing. We see that straight now in front of us on the right. There was also an infield track with a huge skid pan, several rumble strips, and a test hill. The Leyland Test Track closed in 2005, and since then the site has been left abandoned. Officially, the track isn't accessible, but there are several unofficial entrances. On July 27, 2017, a plan was given green light to demolish the disused Leyland Test Track and build 960 new houses on the site instead. That's exactly 1 year before Hermann made his first visit. The Sitges-Terramar circuit opened in 1922 and was a private initiative from Frick Armangues, near the seaside resort of Sitges-Terramar, not far from Barcelona. The track was an oval with a huge banking of 66 degrees. Another strange oddity was that the oval itself had a right kink in its back straight. The Sitges-Terramar circuit was the first permanent racetrack in Spain. In 1923 it hosted the Spanish Grand Prix, which was won by Albert Devo in his Sunbeam. However, the racetrack was not a financial success. Bills were unpaid, and as a result, it was shunned by the International Series. In 1925, Bugatti driver Edgar Morowitz bought the site and began a financial recovery of the Sitges-Terramar circuit, but when in 1936 the Spanish Civil War broke out, the track was closed and it never opened again. In 2008, Hermann visited the abandoned racetrack. It took him some effort to get permission from the then owner to take any pictures. Those days, it was an agricultural area. However, there are rumours that the Sitges-Terramar circuit has been sold to a new owner, who wants to change the area into a motorsport resort, with the classic high-banked oval as part of the museum and exposition ground. Fingers crossed that happens. The Morano Po circuit, also known as the Autodromo Casale Monferrato, was a 1.53 mile long racetrack in northern Italy. The Autodromo Casale Monferrato opened in 1973 and was used for national racing, like the Italian Formula 3 Championship and touring car races. However, there was also a plan to extend the track to make it more suitable for international races too. But in 1975, local residents started to complain about the noise. Yep, that happens in Italy too. For the 1976 season, the number of racing events at Morano Pole were reduced, but that was not enough, and by the end of the season, the circuit was closed. To prevent illegal racing, a part of the asphalt layer was destroyed in 1977, but it was restored later in an attempt to bring the track back to life in 1981. After several attempts, the circuit didn't get final permission for reopening, so the circuit itself still remains abandoned right up until this day. The coolest part about the Morano Po circuit ruin is that almost everything is still there, except the grandstand. In the summer of 2017, Herman visited the circuit with two Italian friends who showed him the way around. He explored the old pit building, the track itself, and an old restaurant left abandoned on the site. If you want more information about circuits in this video, please visit the website www.circuitsofthepast.com. There's also a free ebook about 7 abandoned circuits that you can visit legally. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to subscribe for more memories of circuits of the past.